Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the South Derbyshire series, a district of Derbyshire which stretches from Leicestershire to Staffordshire, containing 50 civil parishes. Here's one of them for you. Welcome back to South Derbyshire again, folks. Now, the last 3 episodes in this series have been really small affairs, haven't they? Well, I've got one that's a bit bigger for you today. This one has got a lot more than all 3 of those put together. It's going to be a nice walk around as well because the sun is up and it's shining brightly. We're starting at the Lit Gate outside the church here, and this is on top of a hill. And that's important in this place because this is Sutton on the hill. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Sutton on the Hill, Southern Farmstead on a hill. This week in South Derbyshire we hit Sutton on the Hill, a pretty little village on a shallow hillside which oozes all the charm we've become accustomed to in this county of England. This isn't our first rodeo as far as Sutton goes. We've met plenty of them before, and this one means the same as all the others, Southern Farmstead. This particular version has very little in the way of actual landmarks, but there's a few. For starters, on top of that hill is the Church of St Michael, which has a monument like none other in the country. It's well worth a visit just to see that, and we will get a look at it in this episode. Sutton has a very active cricket club, one with a pitch that's caught a few fielders out in its time thanks to its undulations. It's built, after all, on a patch of land that was cultivated using the ridge and furrow method. Then there's Sutton Hall, a former vicarage where the Buxton family once lived. Some of the Buxtons even played for the cricket team. At the bottom of the hill is a former school, a former pub, and the site of an old cheese factory. And further afield, Sutton can also boast an old watermill too, standing as it does on a stretch of fierce and powerful water. It's a Derbyshire delight, this place, and I loved it from start to finish. Let's get walking around and take it all in. Are you with me? We begin our walk around Sutton on the hill itself at the Church of St Michael. This is a building whose siting makes perfect sense. It's at the highest point for miles around. As well as Sutton, the parish also once included Thurvaston, Osleston and Ash, 3 hamlets which are built on much lower lying ground. St Michael was always a common dedication for churches that stand on hilltops. The tower has 6 bells, the earliest of which dates from 1602, and it's inscribed with the words, "All men that hear my mournful sound, repent before you light in ground." This one was open, so let's have a look around. St Michael's dates from the 13th and 14th centuries originally, but was rebuilt in the same style in 1863 on the old foundations. A lot of Chellaston alabaster can be found in the chancel, and there's one monument in particular in there that's of great interest. That would be the Sleigh Monument. It features a solid black stone coffin, the only one of its kind anywhere in the country. The monument, dated 1634, is in commemoration of Judith, the wife of Samuel Sleigh of Ash and Etwall. There's a name we'll be mentioning again pretty soon. Well worth a visit to this church. free tea and coffee and biscuits over there. So, sorts me out. Also, there's a little table that's got some little leaflets about Sutton on the Hill, the church and the village. And on the back you can see there's a map of the place. I'll just show you this. So we are here at the church, which is there, and our route basically goes across a field here. It crosses a cricket pitch to Sutton Hall and then comes down to the village hall here. There's a brook or a stream or something there. We'll try and catch that as well, and then we'll head back up the hill because the church is right at the top of it, back to the start. So it's a nice circle. You can see here as well, there's also a chapel marked on this map up here, look, on the road to Thurvaston and Osleston. We're not going to be going up there because my next one after Sutton on the Hill is this way, so I'll be going away from that. But just to let you know, there is a chapel there as well. I'll take one of these leaflets with me, might be useful for making the video. So yeah, let's continue the walk and let's head across that field to the cricket pitch and find our way to Sutton Hall. So now we've got to make our way downhill, and to do that we're using a footpath that crosses first some fields and then the cricket pitch. The land in and around Sutton has always been agricultural. It's mainly pasture, with a smaller amount set aside for arable farming. The fields out here are surrounded by expert examples of hedge laying. Sutton's inhabitants have always worked in agriculture and its supporting services. You're more likely to meet animals in this place than you are humans. Indeed, in crossing these fields, several sheep took an interest in me. Since the start of the 1900s, the cricket club has had its small but picturesque ground behind Sutton Hall. The ground itself is small by modern standards, and it's characterised by the gently undulating outfield on one side, evidence of the ridge and furrow farming methods used on the field in medieval times. The current square is believed to have been laid between the wars. The wooden pavilion, still in use by the club today, was acquired from Longford Hall. Since 1970, the club has gone on an annual tour. In recent times, this has even included a trip to the south of France. So this is Sutton Hall. It was built in 1820 as a vicarage, and Reverend Buxton was the first vicar to live here. Its style is Gothic, and the garden on its western side has a wavy crinkle-crankle wall. In spring, a splendid show of daffodils can be seen in the field opposite. Of course, this is no longer the vicarage, it's now a private house. The current vicarage was built next to the church in 1893. It was the birthplace of Philip Strong, who went on to be the primate of Australia and Tasmania. Let's leave the hall behind now as we make our way into the village itself. Our next stop is an old school. Before we get to that, there's a couple of houses on the right. You'll notice if you walk this route yourself that Sutton isn't really a clustered village. Most of the properties are set back from the roads, often hiding behind tall trees or hedgerows. It's laid out primarily along one road with a handful of side streets. The absolute dead centre of the place can be defined by a staggered crossroads where you can find this shelter. No buses stop here, but it's still used as a notice board. Speaking of which, here's one of those. Out came the cards, and Sutton on the Hill is done. This is the old school, which has now been converted into a village hall. It closed as a school in 1973, owing to low attendance. It wasn't the first school the village has ever had, though. Education in Sutton goes back to 1738, when an original school was built near the church. Sutton has no pub these days, but it used to. This building opposite the village hall is the former Cheetham Arms. Sutton also had many trades in days past, including a smithy, a wheelwright's, and even a cheese factory. There was a shop and a post office in the village centre too, but all of those have now disappeared. At this point, an old stables appears on the corner as the road starts to run off southwards towards the hamlet of Burnt Heath, near Hilton. Features are few now along this road, but there is a phone box at least. That has a defib machine, and there's also a post box next to it. If you come at the right time, there's often a charity plant sale here as well. Brook Lane forms the second part of the staggered crossroads in the village centre. The aforementioned cheese factory was on this very road. Brook Lane lives up to its name. It meets a watery end before becoming a footpath. We're about to see the water in question, but to do so we're using Marl Pit Lane. The name of this road suggests Sutton had a marl pit, which would have been dug to extract nutrient-rich clay or marl, which was often used as an agricultural fertiliser. Marl pits date to the post-medieval period, and often their existence is evidenced through place names. This road becomes Church Lane, but before we complete the circuit, we're taking a left turn towards the brook. Apart from the church, the only building to be mentioned in the Domesday account of Sutton was a mill. Sutton still has a mill, but this of course isn't the one that was standing in 1086. This one had 2 water wheels, which each drove a pair of grinding stones. It converted to electric power during the war and closed altogether in 1973. The water that powered it came from Sutton Brook, and that's this stretch of water on your screens now. This is a continuation of Longford Brook that we mentioned last week, only now much wider and much more powerful. The road crosses the stream via a pretty little humpback bridge, and that was the ideal spot to touch base with you again. Okay, so at this point we turn around and we head back into the village, and all that's really left to do is climb the hill back to the church where we began. It's not the steepest hill in the world, so if you are following this route, and I know some people do like to follow the exact footsteps that I walk in, then you don't need to have had your Weetabix in the morning to get up this one. It's very gentle, it's shallow, so yeah, you'll be fine. So let's turn around, let's go back past the mill, let's go and find that hill and finish this one off. This last section was a gentle climb back up the hill towards the church once again. This section felt like I was in the middle of nowhere at times, surrounded only by farms and outbuildings, and the lack of any traffic meant all I could hear was birdsong. With the early spring sunshine and the lush fields in the distance, a site only punctuated by the tall spire of St Michael's, this could have been the very same site several centuries ago. Apart from the loss of its amenities, Sutton hasn't changed much at all over the years, and it seems to be a wonderful village in which to live. And that's going to do us for Sutton on the Hill. I will say that up to now I didn't really have a favourite in South Derbyshire, but I think that's changed after coming here. I recommend visiting Sutton, not for what it has historically, but definitely if you love strolling around the English countryside. More of the same next week. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.